I'm Lieutenant Mike Shaw. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Michigan State Police. Today at the Knights of Columbus Hall, we're going to be holding our Coffee with the Cop event. And what this is a national event that allows people in the community to kind of get to know their law enforcement officials. Today we have the Chief from Armada, our District Commander from MSP, some firefighters, and it just gets everybody together to have a good time here and kind of get to know everybody. And if they have any questions about law enforcement in the community, they're free to ask them.
Hello everybody, my name is Phil Newmeyer. I'm an officer with the Armada Police Department, and this is my partner Bullet. I've been asked to talk a little bit about Bullet and some of the things that he's capable of doing. Bullet is actually Belgian. He's a little over 10 years old. He originally was imported to Ohio. He then came to the Macomb County Sheriff's Department where I previously worked. He's a sweetheart and loves itching. But Bullet is cross-trained for many things. He's a patrol dog, so he does tracking, he does apprehension work, he also does handler protection, article recovery, things of that nature. Bullet, he's also now doing a narcotics search of some stuff over there. He's also a narcotics dog. Heel. And he is certified in 6 different types of narcotics. So we're very happy with Bullet and bringing him to Armada.
How long do the dogs have to go through training?
Well, training is an ongoing thing. It goes on constantly from the time we get the dog. So Bullet had 10 weeks of pre-service. He then attended a 5-week academy with myself. So 15 weeks for a start. And then we do constant training with him at least once a week. We do training.
And then the dogs stay with one officer?
Correct. One officer. He's not a pass-around dog. He lives at home with me and my family. He's spoiled rotten, and he's a very, very big part of the family. Some of the equipment that we use is a little different. For instance, everybody always asks about the apprehension work, the bite work. Okay. This happens to be one of the type of sleeves that we use. The decoy would put the sleeve on, and then the dog can apprehend that person without injuring the decoy. That's one of the ways that we train apprehension work. If he's going to do narcotic searches, we use a different kind of collar. He just gets to wear this collar with this lead, and then we guide him around and let him sniff for narcotics.
So he knows by that piece of equipment what his job is?
Correct. Correct. This is his toy. You can see he's been using it a bit. When he finds something, it's not a food reward, but a toy reward. He gets to play. And then if we're going to do tracking, which is a big part of what we do, he wears this harness here. And then we do our tracking work. So that's a little bit about Bullet and what he can do for us.
How many dogs have you trained?
Well, Bullet is my first service dog. I have a second dog now, Gretchen, which is actually out in the truck, and we'll bring her in a little bit and let's take a look at her. She's currently in training right now. She should hopefully finish some of her basic training end of November, and be on the road shortly thereafter, we hope.
Well, hello. My name is Monica Yesh, and I'm the District Commander for the 2nd District. And the 2nd District encompasses all of Southeast Michigan. That's Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. And our responsibility is to provide resources to those communities and the citizens that need them. So that's kind of what we do, and I oversee those resources in Southeast Michigan. So do you have any questions tonight?
How often are you out here in Armada area?
We provide coverage in the township 24/7. So if there's a call for service, we may not have a patrol car in the township. It may be close by. It'll come from the closest location to provide service to the township. We provide service to any township that doesn't have its own police department or doesn't contract with the sheriff's department. Locally in southeast Michigan, there's not a lot of those communities because most communities have their own police department or contract with the sheriff. As you go out state, we get more and more of that because there are many communities who do not have their own police department. And that's what we do. We provide service for them.
Do you have a phone number that you can give that so people can call?
Yes,
if they need you?
If someone needs us, they can call 313-237-2450. That's our dispatch center, and we will dispatch a car when needed. Obviously, if it's an emergency, dial 911, and the closest car will get to your residence as soon as possible.
How many state police officers are there in the state of Michigan, approximately?
Approximately, we have about 1,100 on the road. We have about 2,000 total in our police department.
What's the biggest difference in the scope of the work of a state police officer as opposed to a local police officer?
The difference basically is jurisdiction. A local officer has jurisdiction, for instance, in the village of Armada, only in the village of Armada, or in the city of Detroit, only in the city of Detroit. For the Michigan State Police, we have jurisdiction anywhere in the state of Michigan. When it comes to specialties, obviously, the bigger the department, probably the bigger or more specialties you're going to have in your agency. With the state police, we have uniformed troopers that work the road. We have troopers who work undercover in narcotics, auto theft, and that sort of thing. We do special investigations. We have a K-9 unit. We have K-9s. We have 4 of them in southeast Michigan assigned. We also have a dive team who goes out. We have divers assigned to the 2nd District. We have our emergency support team, which is like a SWAT team. We have members assigned to that. And we have aviation, which is the helicopter, which patrols in Detroit almost every evening, or southeast Michigan. In addition to that, we have like community service troopers. We provide training to all law enforcement that wants it, a variety of training at our training academy in Lansing, or we'll come out to the field and provide training to people. So pretty encompassing in what we're able to provide.
We've noticed in the past, recently, with some of the posts that have been shut down and reallocated, I would say, that the state police has posted up in some of the more rural areas, maybe with fire departments. Does the state police have any interest in doing something like that out in our township and in our area here in Armada?
I would say the closest one is Bruce Township to you right now.
Right.
And we do it based on, we can't have, what we don't want to do is be too fragmented. So if they wanted us to come here and put a particular location, work out of here someplace, we'd consider that. However, we want to be mobile. We want to, just because we start in someplace doesn't mean we're not going to get to someplace else. So we have people up in Bruce Township. We have people in Chesterfield, Detroit, Taylor, Novi, and Northville. And then Oak Park is our main post, and troopers start and end their days there. And that, what we find, is gets us more out into the areas. And I know we closed some posts down for regional, what we call regional policing. We went from 64 posts to 29 posts. And we did that because, A, we were going to have to lay troopers off, and we didn't want to have to lay troopers off, and we don't have to work in a building anymore because everything's in your patrol car. So while we may not actually have a building in Armada where we show up every day, we can still patrol that particular area because everything's in our cars now. So it's kind of, it's a new way of thinking. When I worked the road, contrary to popular belief, I wasn't on a horse. We had cars, and we had to write everything out. And everything had to be written on tickets. We typed. A lot of kids don't know what a typewriter is. We had to type, that kind of stuff. Now, with the technology, let's utilize the technology we have and make ourselves more available to the public. Because really, that's what it's all about. It's being available to the public, whether it's hopefully not bad. But like tonight, we wanted to come out. We want to speak to the public and the community and develop relationships. So the only time you see us is not when something bad happens, but you'll know who we are.
And I'm sure with the numbers you kind of just talked about, that you've seen availability up, the actual overall manpowers on the road have probably increased due to the fact that they're not drive, in the areas that you want to patrol because they're not sitting in an office or driving from Detroit up here or something like that. Have you guys tracked that and kind of?
I can't tell you how many extra miles we've gotten or how many patrol hours that we've gotten, but I can tell you that it's increased. I noticed it just from my time going from point A to point B. I see more trooper cars because if you think about it, if I'm not sitting in the post doing my paperwork, I'm out on the road doing it, and so I'm more available. Same thing with our sergeants. We took our sergeants who mainly would hang out in the post and do paperwork and administrative work inside our buildings. Obviously, we reduced those amount of buildings, so we were able to take those sergeants and put them on the road. So they're supervising our troopers on the road, and they take calls for service and back our troopers up and back up other departments. So yeah, we've seen an increase in our presence and our visibility, and I think that that's really what the main goal is all about. So
we noticed that with even with like domestics or vehicle MVAs, things like that. It's not just a trooper or several troopers. A lot of times now, a sergeant or lieutenant or whoever need be will show up out there with them.
Right.
So we've already seen the change, the influx in more guys,
and that's good.
more manpower.
And another thing that has helped us obviously is Governor Snyder has, since he became governor, has made a commitment to law enforcement, and he's increased the amount of schools that we have. And so, as a matter of fact, tomorrow on October 31st, we're graduating 80 more troopers to put out on the road. The metro area is getting 15 of those, and if you could run a couple schools like that, then we can start increasing our numbers. We started dwindling down. We didn't hire for several years, and people retired, and that's another reason why you saw less troopers. So we got a combination here. We got the regional policing with more mobile police, and we got the ability to hire more troopers than what we've had in the past. So that benefits the public.
And is that a lot of the reason why you're seeing the officers, the lieutenants, in the police cars, because they're more mobile now? They're dispatching right out of their cars rather than they're sitting in an office.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, we should be out on the road, and that's where they should be. Okay. So we don't do anybody good sitting in the post, and so to be out on the road, we're able to help the public a lot better.
And this meet and greet is quite nice, and it's nice to get to know the officers that are coming out into our areas. Do you do this kind of thing for schools?
Yes.
Get to know the kids really early, and
we were just having that discussion.
let them know you're not the bad guy.
I think it's critical. From my perspective, I think you got to start in elementary school and go from elementary to junior high to high school. Kids need to know we're not the bad guys, that we're here to help. I think it's also a recruiting tool because in order to get people to want to become law enforcement officers as well as firefighters for that matter, you got to let them know what the job is about and how it can be a very beneficial and very rewarding career for yourself. And if you don't start that young, by the time you get them in college or out, it's too late. They're already going someplace else, or they've obviously, they maybe have committed a crime that makes them ineligible to become in law enforcement. So I think that's a big role for us. We were just discussing that. We have community service troopers that go out to these schools and talk to our youth. Let them know what we do. We read to them. We let them ask us questions. We try to teach them that the police are not the bad guys, that we're here to help, and we're not going to take them to jail when we see them. And I think that's important.
I do too.
Did you have a question? Or did you forget? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah, me either. Trust me. I walk to the front door and I'm like, what did I walk back here for? And then you have to retrace your steps, go back. And, oh yeah, now I remember. I was like that driving up here today.
You know what that's like.
No, I remember.
Yeah,
So do you think
yeah,
now
I'm
that
having a
you're
hard
going to be
time.
graduating more officers, do you think we'll see even a bigger presence in Armada?
Well, I don't know specifically in Armada, but what I will tell you is that you will see more troopers. Now, remember, it takes them about 3 months to go through their training phase. They're with another trooper, and it takes them about 3 months to go through all that. So you don't see the benefits for about 3 months. However, after 3 months, you'll see more troopers, and then we're going to be running another recruit school in January, February of next year, so that will help. I do believe every time you graduate police officers, you're going to see an increase. But again, we're talking Southeast Michigan, so it just depends, on the calls for service and what we have going.
But if a city or a township has their own police department already, you're not going to be spending time in there unless they call you in.
Right. The village of Armada has its own police department, and it has a great police department.
Right.
And unless they need assistance or additional resources, then we're going to go someplace that doesn't. And we don't take calls for service when someone else has their own police department.
You're asking more in the township, at the township
Yeah, the
level.
township.
Yeah, because we don't have that.
No, we don't.
So,
You know, they are available for calls, and again, they're signed up here for that reason.
Now, do you know, since we have the 911 system in the township that goes to the sheriff department, how long does that take from that call to go to that center to you guys?
It shouldn't take very long. It just depends on what's going on in the dispatch center. It should be automatic. If there's a call for service in Ray Township, someone calls and says, I need a police officer here, someone broke into my house, the dispatch center should automatically just be forwarding those to our dispatch center, which should only take seconds.
Okay,
So it's the way it's supposed to work.
okay.
But, and thank you, Captain Yesh. I mean, to say that we have a good and a progressive police department is flattering for, a department our size. I think the good part about it is probably 90% of our department are retirees. I mean, we've got Phil Newmeyer here with his dogs today. When we hired Phil, we were lucky enough to get the dogs as well, so that's a plus. Detective Sharp is here. Detective Sharp was the senior field training officer for the Macomb County Sheriff's Office, and he's been doing the detective job here for probably about 6 years and does a great job, and the community utilizes him well. So, we're very lucky. And when I came and I talked to the township board and I talked to the village board, one of the things that was, very flattering that we heard from, our partners in this, recent homicide investigation was how well the community, reflected how nice they were to the investigators, whether the investigators, be MSP or the FBI or Macomb County Sheriff's Office. The community was great, and we're lucky, to be policing out here, taking care of the community. So I don't know if there are any questions that you asked Captain Yesh that you wanted a different look at, but if there are, let me know. And
How many full-time and part-time officers does the Armada Police Department have?
we have 2 full-time and we have 10 part-time. So we have 12 officers. And as the clerk made sure that I, put in there, we are 24/7, 365. We handle the community events, with the help of the fire department, because I don't know why we run 4 parades a year, but we run 4 parades a year, and
They're all important.
they're all important. That's right. But with the help of the fire department, we handle those things, and we can do that in house. So. If you utilize the resources right, you can get a lot accomplished, and we're lucky to do that, and we're lucky to have the partners that we have.
When someone goes to the police academy, do they go to be specifically a local police officer, a sheriff officer, a state police officer? Is there a direction when they go into that academy?
There used to be a time back years ago that most of the officers going to the academy were already hired by an agency. The state police runs their own academy. Their officers that go to their academy are going to be state troopers. That's what they're going for. The regional academies years ago, it was pre-designated where they were going. Detroit also runs their own academy, but now, and it's getting a little better, but now most officers that go to the academy are pre-service. They're going there on their own dime. They get out and then they're looking for a job. And one of the very difficult things to do is, and it's not just our profession, it's any profession, when you get out, you have no experience, so it's very hard to find a job if you don't have any experience, very hard to get experience if you can't get a job. A lot of small departments like ours hire these younger my philosophy is it's very difficult to come out to a small community where you're running maybe only one officer on the road at a time, and that officer doesn't have any experience yet. One of the main reasons that I've looked to hire retirees is because they already know how to identify a problem. They've dealt with it in the past. They already had the experience from some other community, and then they're able to handle it in our community.
That makes sense. The reaction would be totally different than an unexperienced officer that just came out.
Correct.
Okay. And then when they become hired by a department, they continue training? Or from that point on, it's hands-on?
No, most departments that can afford to do it have what's called a field training officer, or field training program. Like the captain said, the troopers that are graduating from their current academy, they're going to come out and they're going to go through at least a 3-month process where they'll work with generally 3 different, if you will, trainers, and then they'll go back to their original trainer for a shadow phase. So you're looking at, even when you hire, somebody, and they come to your department, they are going to be with the field training officer for probably, 14 weeks. So you're still waiting to get that officer on the road. After the 14 weeks, when they successfully complete the field training program and they are out on the road, they feel like they know, after the academy, they feel like they know what they're doing. It's just probably again, from that point on, you're probably looking at a year or 2 years till you really refine, how to do the job. So, everybody good?
Thank you,
We
Jake.
have an NVA where we have a school bus that is possibly on fire.
Sure.
And we have people who, now that we've kind of shut the road down, I don't know if you want this. Now that you've kind of shut the road down, we still have cars going past us. We know that police protection is on its way to help us with traffic control and get things under control. And we know you guys aren't far. Can we call and request you?
The only way we garner authority outside the village is with the authority of the state police. So, and then the state police, will do that. If they've got a car coming and say their car, for some reason, the car that's out here is tied up already on a motor vehicle accident, and say they've got a car coming from Oak Park.
Okay.
And they know that they're a ways off. Their dispatch knows that. And they say, village, can you send a car out to assist? Then under their authority, we can go out and assist.
I kind of wondered how that would work.
And it's very similar to, if they're running, say they're running a one-man car,
Right.
one-person car, out in the township, and they're running on an alarm. And obviously, we don't know what is going to occur at that alarm. We don't know if it's an active alarm or not. And they're looking for a backup. If the county is unavailable and it's close to the village, then absolutely we would go out and provide mutual aid and make sure that there were 2 officers out on that alarm.
So what's the chain here? Is it state police, you, county sheriff?
The state police.
For the township, I mean.
Yep, the state police is running the police services for the township right now.
Right.
If it is an emergency, the county will come and back, and the county will come and back to state, if they need it. But there, as I understand it right now, the county is running one, if you will, free county car. So if that car happens to be backing their Lennox car and there's nobody available, but again, the state is right now is covering the 4 townships that have no designated police. So they could be on an alarm. They could be on an alarm in Bruce Township.
Right.
They would not call us to go back them on that. They would call either Romeo or the county. And the easiest thing for them to do is to call the county, because the county has jurisdiction in the whole county of Macomb. So that would be the first call. And then if it's close, to Romeo, Richmond, Armada, then they would try a local municipality.
Join the Michigan State
Okay, we are back with Officer Neumeier and his female dog.
Yes, Gretchen. Gretchen. Sit.
Gretchen doesn't look at all like Bullet. Are they different kinds of German Shepherds?
They're both traditional German Shepherds. Gretchen actually originates from Germany, whereas Bullet originated from Belgium. But he's a traditional German Shepherd, and so is she.
And how old is she?
Gretchen is 13 years old. She just started her training.
13 years or 13
I'm sorry,
months?
13 months.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
13 months. She just started her training. She's currently working on narcotics mainly. So right now she likes marijuana, she likes cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine. So those are the 4 primary orders that we're working with her right now. She's also working on tracking. She'll be a people finder. And right now we're up to about 300 yards in tracking. So she's doing very well.
And how long will her training take?
This particular training is 5 weeks, and it's taking place actually at the Oakland Community College Police Academy. They have a canine training program there, so that's where she's going to school at right now.
And do you see a difference between Bullet at this age and Gretchen at this age?
Well, yeah, I got Bullet when he was 16 months. Okay. He also had 10 weeks of pre-training. Whereas Gretchen, on the other hand, we got Gretchen at 5 months old, and she's pretty much been pre-trained somewhat by me.
And
No fleas, just dry skin.
how is her relationship with Bullet?
They get along great.
They're like siblings,
Yes.
or are they?
Well, they're sort of like siblings, yeah. They tease one another. She tends to be the teaser. And so
that.
she will try and take his toy away from him. She will fuss and tease him and things like that, jump after him and nip at him and things. But when it comes down to it, they really get along very well together. When I bring Bullet home from work and Gretchen isn't with us, it's funny, she'll come to the door to greet us. She runs off with Bullet and leaves me standing there with no love. It's like, oh, geez, dog. And then she comes back again and says hi, and then goes back to Bullet. So, but yeah, they're like kids. They're all different. But she's got a lot of good qualities. She's a good size. She's a very handsome dog.
Is she going to get any larger?
She probably will get a little bit bigger, but not by much. This is pretty much it, which is not bad. Very agile at this size. Her health, as long as we keep the weight off of her and such, that goes for everybody. Excuse me. But her hips should stay good. The smaller size is good for that. She also has a good history with her mom and dad were police dogs, and so she has a good family heritage of having good health. So we're hoping to have her around for a while.
Now you said her specialty, so to say, is narcotics. How do you train a dog to look for something that's a narcotic?
Well, what we do is we take say marijuana. We'll take a 5-gallon bucket, put some marijuana in it, and then take rolled up towels, clean towels. Put them in that bucket, put a lid on it, and seal it. And leave them sit for a couple of days. That way the odor of the marijuana gets on the towels. We'll then play with the dog with those towels. They don't actually get the narcotics, but they get the smell of the narcotics. So they smell those towels, they know that when they get one of those towels, they play. We tug with them and jostle with them, and excuse me, and things like that. And so they learn to understand that when they smell that odor, they get to play. And so that's how it's done. So we do the same thing with heroin, methamphetamines, cocaine, things of that nature. The old school way of actually giving the dogs some narcotics and almost making them addicted to the drugs, they don't do that anymore. It's not humane to the animal.
That's terrible. I didn't know they used to.
Yeah, back in the old
Yeah.
days, that rumor has it that's how they used to do it. But this way, they never get direct exposure to the drug, but they do get the smell of it. And so they
Does
just
she respond differently for different drugs?
no, same response. You'll see her when she searches. She'll just search, and she'll smell. And when she gets to something, she gets to an order, she'll stop. Her breathing will change, and you'll almost hear her like snort and take in the air. And then her response is then to actually scratch at the area where she gets the odor, and it tells me that she's located in an odor of narcotics.
Is that the same for Bullet? Does Bullet
Yes,
do the
Bullet
same?
does the same.
Do all police narcotic dogs do that, or
No.
They react differently.
Some will do what they call passive alert, which means, and that's typical of bomb dogs, but they also do narcotics dogs that way. They'll actually, when they smell something like that, they'll then sit to tell you that they found something. So it's just a matter of training and what works best. Bullet did it that way, does it that way actually, and so we're letting Gretchen do the same.
And you mentioned that you use a scratch box to help them understand.
I didn't actually bring it in, but to encourage their scratching, what we'll do is we'll tease them with that towel that's got the odor on it. We'll then throw that towel in what we call a scratch box, which is basically a wooden box with a guillotine door on one side. They see the towel go into that box, close the door, and then they come running to it and they'll scratch at it. And that encourages them and builds their scratching ability. When they scratch good and we're happy with what they're doing, we'll lift the door up, then they get their toy. So it's another way of reinforcing that when I smell that particular odor, I get to play. I scratch and I get my reward.
So playing is kind of an intricate part of their training, more so than strict discipline.
Yes.
Do this, do that. It's reward.
Correct.
Do this and you get a reward.
Yeah, they are German Shepherds in particular, service dogs. They just love to work. People always ask me, "Oh, I want a German Shepherd. I want a German Shepherd." Well, if you're gonna keep that dog locked up for 12 hours while you go to work, and then come home, sit on the couch with you, that poor dog is just not really doing what he loves. He loves to be out. He loves to play. These guys just go and go and go, and they just love it. Even when we do apprehension work, we put a sleeve on somebody and let them run and let the dogs catch them. They're not growling, they're not biting, they're holding on and their tails are wagging. Bullet's had a number of street apprehensions, and it's funny because he's actually wagging his tail because he's got a bad guy on the end.
You're under arrest.
I got you. This is cool. So it's not the term aggression is used a lot, but it's really the dog is not mean. The dog doesn't hate you. He's just a big toy for him. He's just catching you because he loves doing that. He loves working.
When you first started in the department, I remember you saying that you would leave because you weren't bringing Bullet in yet.
Yeah.
And then you said that Bullet was just didn't know what to do with himself. And you came in because he thought he would go to work when you put on your uniform.
Yep. If I get my car keys or I might put on my boots, they're both like, "Oh, we're going someplace. Let's go." And it's really it's difficult. On occasion, I have to leave them at home. Mainly because of what I'm doing, maybe the dog isn't appropriate, or they're just going to sit in a car for hours, and that's not fair to me. And so they just literally get upset with not going to work.
From the law enforcement end of the Coffee with the Cop, we would like to thank the community for all the people that came out and said thanks and asked us the questions that they had. Thank you to the community. We appreciate it.
From Michigan State Police, we want to say thank you to the community for welcoming us here. It's been a good night. Been able to answer a lot of questions, and please remember that the State Police and Armada Police Department, we work together, we work collaboratively, and if there's anything you need from us, just let us know, and thank you.